So in terms of my parents, I'm sure they could tell a million stories about how difficult it was to raise me, but were there some specific things that you wanted to talk about the difficulty of raising me, about the things that I did?
Well, I'll start off with that. I really felt like giving up on you twice in your youth.
Yeah.
You fought me. I don't mean physically.
Right.
But I did not want my son to wind up like my younger brother. And that's what I was so afraid of you doing and being. That concerned me. It concerned me that the many nights that we spent when you were in high school, and we would not only correct your papers, but rewrite a lot of your papers, and you would not even pass them in. It concerned me that some of the teachers at your school who knew me would tell me that you rarely went to class. You would hang out in the hall with the wrong guys. And I would tell your mother that, and your mother said, no, not my son. No. Because she always fought for you. She said, these teachers that teacher just didn't like him. But one teacher doesn't like you, okay, we go talk to the teacher. If two teachers don't like you, okay, that's pushing it. But if 3-4 teachers don't like you, it's you. We had some problems. One day, Fredrick decided that he was going to really challenge me. And he left the house, and I told him he was not going to leave. And he went up on the name of the elementary school?
Playground, Talbot Springs.
Talbot Springs basketball court. And some of his buddies were up there. And I walked up there and I told Fredrick, go home. And his buddies surrounded me. And I told them, you don't know me, but I'll take down at least 3 of you. He said, Fredrick, take your tail home now before somebody gets hurt. Because I was going to hurt somebody. I'll fight for my son and I'll fight over my son. But this was for my son's benefit. And I was not playing. I wanted my son to go home.
He did.
And he did. The one time that made up for all of that I felt so proud of my son, is when I took the family to Europe. We went over to see Fredrick in Würzburg, wherever that was.
Germany.
I was in the Army, yeah.
I put Fredrick, we sent Fredrick off to the Army with 48 cents in his pocket. And Fredrick went to Rachel's cousin's house and wanted to borrow $100. And he called me, Alfred. Alfred called me and he said, Fredrick wants $100 now. I'll give it to him. All you got to do is say the word. I'll give it to him. I said, don't. Do not give him a cent. I said, the recruiter told me that all he needed was a toothpaste and a change of clothes. A toothbrush and a change of clothes.
Yeah.
So Fredrick went over there broke, I assume. Now, he might have gone to one of the other relatives. I don't know.
No, I was broke.
He was broke. Okay. But Fredrick left us an immature boy. That's what he was. And when I went over to see him, he was a man. He was a man. That made me so proud. I couldn't. The transformation was incredible, and I was so proud of him. And I've been proud of him ever since.
Thank you.
I'm the one that cold brown, huh? He said, and mommy and daddy are not here. And mommy can't bring me any warm cookies to eat. So
Although you did mail me some things.
I did. Yeah. Yes. And I did not know he left with no money. So Freddie drove him to where he had to go to leave for the military basic training.
Yeah.
To the hotel. But no, Alfred. I don't know. Somehow Alfred was in there. Alfred.
I don't know.
I don't remember that part about Alfred. But somehow Alfred had to help you get somewhere. Yeah. Maybe you call Alfred after you got to the hotel. I don't know how,
but Alfred called me and said, Freddie, if you give me the word, I'll give him $100. I said, no, don't give him a cent. Don't give him a dime. I wanted him to go over there broke because something had to happen to change Fredrick. He needed something and the Army did it.
Yes, the Army did it. The Army did it. Ma, you have a commentary on that?
I want to say something on the original subject that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And before we changed, about the difference between kids from our day and the kids now. I want to go back to that for just a minute because it occurs to me that I did not get on a school bus until high school. A school bus, and that was a bus that was owned by one of the parents to take the rifle team to a white school for target practice. And we had loaded guns at the school. I was on the rifle team. You can never do that now.
No. Yeah. No.
The other thing was kindergartners are catching buses now. Preschools. The one thing that stands out in my memory from elementary school was that my first day of formal schooling was first grade. I did not go to nursery school. I did not go to kindergarten. Kindergarten was pay as you go back then. And so was nursery. So a lot of the wealthier parents went to nursery. They sent their kids to nursery school. And I don't know how my brothers went. But when it came to me, I went to neither one. So I was so handicapped in first grade. The kids came in first grade. They were all singing nursery rhymes and they could all read a little. And I remember that big ribbon going around the wall at the top with A, B, C, D, E, all the way around the room. I had to pretty much teach myself to read because the other kids were already so far ahead of me. They weren't going to stop the class, slow down the class just for me. But I learned to read from reading the funny papers. Now, that may sound funny to you.
Yes, kids did.
But I read the funny papers so much until I finally caught on to the words and what was going on visually on the scene. And now I remember thinking to this day, I remember when it occurred to me that I was reading. I remember Sluggo, reading the Sluggo, and I said, wow, I'm reading, that makes sense. And the more I read, the more excited I became. I became so excited that when it came time to read the Weekly Reader on Monday mornings, I pre-read my Weekly Reader. So when it came time for little Freddie to read his line, I brushed through all of those big words like it was nothing to him because I already pre-read the whole thing. And that's the reason that was the start of my love of reading. I went from way behind to way ahead of those folks because I wanted to learn.
That was an individual thing. Yes.
Yes.
And my mother would bring National Geographics home that she would get from the people she worked for. She would snatch a few editions of National Geographic. I would go through those books. She swiped a couple of the Funkin' Wagnalls encyclopedias. I think we had about 6 of them.
Yeah, but she always returned them.
Rachel, we had them when we got married. What you mean? We had those Funkin' Wagnalls.
Okay, well, I didn't know about
Yes.
it. I don't know where they were.
They were the little red.
I know what you're talking about,
okay.
but I don't remember having those in our home
Okay, we had them.
from her.
I had them growing up, and the World Book when it came out. I don't know what happened to them, but you know,
World Book was very expensive. We didn't do the World Book. So you were well off. You probably had a Britannica too.
I did. We did.
That's what I'm saying. See, you one of those spoiled rich people. Yeah. Oh, that's right. You came from Long Island. You were.
No, White Plains.
White Plains.
I'm sorry. White Plains.
Same thing.
Yeah, they have money in White Plains.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
What was the question again?
So the one.
There was no question.
That's right.
I was rambling.
He,
That was
he
no
brought
question.
up something that
Right.
he didn't get a chance to.
But the difficulty in raising me.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Once you became like later years of middle school, you became very hostile toward me. So, I would get up and come in your room to wake you up. Good morning, Fredrick. What's so good about the morning? And it would hurt me so badly. Like all I did was say good morning. And I think you were angry with the world. I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe I was the easiest person to get out on.
Yep.
Because I was doing everything I could to please you and make sure you had everything you needed and to make sure you felt loved, that you did well in school. And I was the one that sat up in that room 11, 12 o'clock at night to make sure your homework was done. I did not write it over. You wrote it over because I sat there and had you to write it over. We would go through and make the corrections or something, but then you had to write it over. And you did not turn in wrinkled up paper with grease spots on it because we made you do them over. And you were like, well, why do I have to do this? I did it. I'm like, yes, but it needs to be neat and clean. So you go do this over. You told Mrs. Mrs. Stewart, who was working with you at one time, because I couldn't have work with it. You said, my parents made me do my paperwork over for my ancestors. I said, yes, I did. Because I would talk to you every night about what your ancestors went through for you to be in the type of school and the situation and the home you're in right now, and you're not going to do anything against the ancestors. You're going to make them proud. So sit here till you finish doing this whole thing over again. And then he did it, and I checked it. And then I would check with his teacher, and he didn't turn it in.
Fredrick.
He did it. So he knew the work. That was the thing. He knew the information, but he didn't want his teachers and he didn't want his friends to know that he knew it. He knew a lot more than his friends ever thought he knew, because he felt they didn't know anything. So he had to act like he didn't know anything either. That hurt.
Yeah, he told me something one day. He said that he was searching for himself. He said I'm trying to find myself. I became so angry because that was that middle class white stuff that I had been hearing all. I did not want my son using that as an excuse for not doing well. I'm looking for myself. I'm trying to find myself. Here you are, right here.
I remember that.
And he had a great talent in tennis and drama. I went to several of Frederick's plays when he was in elementary school, and he one of the plays he didn't tell me he was in. and he played 3 different parts. Another play he was in, he had the second longest part in the play, and I'm like, why would this teacher send this home with this child to learn? This is too much for somebody this age. So I sat down with Fredrick to start on the play, his parts. He knew the entire play, everybody's part. And so when I came that day, I think I came twice to see the play. I was so thrilled with it. He was standing on the stage. He said he did his parts, and when the other kids didn't remember their part, they looked at him, and he was there. He knew it. He had a gift in drama and in his memory, but he didn't want to be in drama. So when I tried to get him to sign up and do some of the plays in high school, he said, "That's for nerds. I don't want to be a nerd. I'm not a nerd." And he wouldn't. So I put him in a drama class anyway, and he did the props.
Yeah.
He wanted nothing to do with the acting, which is where his gift was. He did not want to play tennis. He wanted to play basketball, but his gift was in tennis.
Yeah.
My experience was so different in that I was a really shy, introverted kid. So there were a couple things here and there that I tried, but you know, my mom wanted me to be outgoing. She wanted me to be more extroverted, but she didn't force me to do anything that I didn't want to do. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think it was okay for me for who I was. Like I cried going to preschool for I think 2 weeks straight, all day long. So then my mom was like, "Fine, just stay home with grandma," right? Which was fine. It wasn't like I learned to read. My mom had already taught me how to read. My grandmother did crossword puzzles, and there was encyclopedias and a big, huge bookcase. So there was books all the time, and so I read all the time. Judy Blume, and I was the only child, and I wasn't outgoing, so I didn't hang out with all the kids in the neighborhood. Here and there I did, but I mostly read. Like I wouldn't go away to camp with them. I was like, no, I was terrified to do that. And I would say that went on probably all the time, like as far as I can remember. And then when it got to high school, when I got to the point where, I did well in school and there was a couple times where they wanted to skip me, but then we had stuff going on at home that kind of hindered that. And even though I was smart and I knew things, I just wasn't following through in school. So my mom would actually sit and write some papers for me, which I found myself doing for Joseph a couple of times. We haven't this year, like now he's doing this stuff himself, but I'm like, we're all gonna sit, we're all writing tonight. What do we have to do? We got to get this all turned in. Everybody's got a different paragraph in class, and that's what we're gonna do. That's what my mom did. So I have done that, and so I appreciate that she did that for me. I mean, it wasn't like I didn't know the information. I just whatever. I don't even know what a good excuse is, but just being lazy and a teen. But we got through it, and I think I don't ever remember my mom talking about me definitely going to college. Like I didn't even think that was something that I would do. I didn't graduate with the greatest GPA just because of stuff that was going on at home. But I ended up going, right? And I ended up getting my master's. My mom supported that. I stayed at home until I was in my 30s. And I never rented. I bought a condo, and when I bought that condo, I probably had $20 a month at the end of every paycheck. And my mom helped me with everything else that needed to be helped with. She's always been there to help me with whatever I was going through. She helped me do that. And luckily she didn't have a kid who I don't think took advantage of it, or I still learned how to be responsible and do things myself. I think it really depends on the kid. If I had a kid who, I understand what you're saying with, you told the cousin, do not give him the money. You wanted him to learn how to do that himself, so I understand that thought process as well, but I also appreciate my mom, stepping in and helping me in that. I'm not a selfish person, but I can see how it could go down that road, or you can always be asking for handouts and always asking your parents for help, which my mom still did help me out as an adult, paying for the wedding, everything. But I do know how to do things for myself, and I try to give back to her now, as much as I possibly can. So, but I think this is going to be a two-parter. This is good. This is all good information, but we wanted to end this with talking about what we appreciated about you all, and I want to be able to talk about both really. So for my mom. I'm gonna get emotional because that's what I do. I don't mean to, but I am. You know, um, I appreciate that my mom, even though she was a single parent, that she still gave me every single thing that she possibly could. She gave me, encourage creativity, encourage independence, being able to take care of myself, not relying on a man for anything. She taught me to love lots of different cultures and people, which I carry into my teaching. Lots of different kinds of music, art. Um, and though I may not be as open minded as her, I still am pretty open minded. I like trying different things, and that's because of my mom. Always wanting to help people, um, and sometimes not taking care of myself because of that. That's something that I see that my mom does. All the artwork you see behind us, it's my mom's artwork. She's very creative, and although I'm not as artistic as she is, I try to bring that to my students. So even though I didn't raise my own kids, I try to bring the things she did for me to them. So people think I do extra, I go too far. I've heard that from colleagues, but that's important to me. That's what I would have done had I had kids of my own. So even though she had to work, she would work at night so she could be at home with me during the day. And luckily, she had my grandmother there to do this work. And I know my mom always wanted a grandchild, but I never wanted to be a single mom. Um, and I knew that my mom worked late in life where her mom never worked. And so I felt like I just didn't want to put my kid in childcare and all that. I mean, there may be some regrets, you figure it out, but that's just why I didn't. And there was a time my mom was really upset with me about not having a kid. We had to actually have a talk about it. I didn't do it on purpose. I just didn't meet anyone until, until it's too late to um, have a child. But I appreciate who she's been to me, and I'm trying to give back, now at this point in her life where I feel like she needs me more. And because we've always been very close and kind of like friends, the lines do get blurred. So I'm, sometimes pushing her harder than I should as I'm the kid, but I mean well, and I know she meant well too. What I appreciate about the both of you is just how much you instill in your kids the importance of being curious, being a good person, the example that he had as a father there, a person who stays, right? Because so many fathers don't stay. I know we keep hearing about single mothers, but we don't talk about the fathers who abandoned them. That's a reason why a lot of these kids are being raised with one parent. And I appreciate that both of you went through everything that you went through, experienced everything that you did, took them to all these different places. And even if financially it wasn't the easiest thing to do, you did it anyway. It really shows in who he is. I mean, he knows so much about so many things, and it's just this is the kind of person I always wanted to marry, and I just appreciate all the work that you put into him. It definitely shows now, like in who he is, and it's just very inspirational to witness. I just feel fortunate to be a part of this whole family that we have here.
Thank you.
So.
All right, and I wanted to give some parting words as well, but I wanted to start off with Cynthia because although I absolutely agree with all of the things that Tiffany said, I think another piece that is critical that doesn't get brought up enough is she was open to any conversation that Tiffany could bring up. And I think that's critical because a lot of parents, they say they want to hear what their kids have to say, but a lot of them really don't. And the fact that Tiffany was able to go to her mother with anything that's on her mind and be able to, to work with her and work through these things. As a parent, I still think is pretty rare that a lot of parents really, sometimes they get offended by the question or don't want to have the discussion. But Cynthia was willing to listen and to have the discussion and to give guidance, which I think is, like I say, I think it's awesome, and I think it's still rare with a lot of parents. Now, in terms of my parents, I got to start off with my mama, of course, because there are certain things about my mother that always stuck with me. First off was no matter how bad I was, no matter how much of a malcontent that I could be, my mother never gave up on me. And so like even when my father said he wanted to a couple of times, I wouldn't have blamed him. I just I would I guess I was that much, of a malcontent. And I see that now looking back at who I was. But the other thing about my mother that is critical, which I think people really need to take into account today, was my mother did two competing things. One, she fought against unfairness. She fought, oh man, the passion she put towards fighting unfairness, and she still does. However, she would never let any of that be an excuse for us not doing all the things that we had to do. And so, what I see too often out there is where people are good at one, but not the other, where people are good at fighting unfairness, but not good at holding themselves accountable. Or you get people who hold themselves accountable and don't fight unfairness. Whereas my mother was able to put energy towards both. And so even though she talked about a lot of the things, the unfairness that we went through, she never let us off the hook. Not at any point. Not at any point. And with my father, the skepticism is one of the critical things that all three of us have. Myself and my two sisters, the skepticism. The other thing about my father that was critical was the effort. Even when some of the things that he did as a father may not have come out the way he wanted to, he still tried. He never stopped trying. And so what that taught me as a father is that you don't have to be perfect, but you got to keep trying. You got to keep getting in there and trying. And that was critical to me. And with my father, there's so much that it would take me all day to talk about it, because I am not who I am without Freddie Cook. I'm just not. There's no, there's so much of me that I still see of my father, and so that also is, yeah, it's huge. It's huge, and so I was talking to Gretchen, who is, for those who don't know, my older sister. I was talking to her about a month ago, and we talked about how we were children of privilege, even though we didn't have any money. But we were children of privilege because we had two educated parents who pushed education, who pushed us to see the world, who pushed us to be curious about the world. And to me, that is a child of privilege. When you grow up with parents like that, you grow up in privilege, because I know so many kids that I went to school with who grew up, some of them grew up with a lot of money, but their parents weren't there. Sometimes you had both parents all out pursuing their careers or whatever the case may be. And for me, I just felt like it was a privilege to have the parents that I have, also to have two parents that are so opposite in so many ways. We got to see contrast. We got to see the good and bad about being cautious, and the good and bad about being risky. And so, you know, both of those were critical, because I think had we gone too far over to either side, I don't know if we would have been as successful. We needed both. We needed the contrast of those two parenting styles. And so I still say it to this day. I was raised a child of privilege.
Wow. I can't wait to watch this when it's all put together. I would like to give the parents a chance at some parting.
I would like to appreciate the two wonderful people you are. I our family has always said, Fredrick, don't mess this up. You have met a wonderful woman. We love her to death. She is, and her mother. She had to have done a lot in her background and her growing up for her to be the person she is today. And her mother's a wonderful person. So we're just so happy that the two of you are in our family. And we want you all to know how much we love you and always enjoy seeing you, and just appreciate the way you're living right now and the things that you're doing together. I enjoy your podcast, and I appreciate what you have said today. And all of my headaches and my hair falling out and everything else that happened as my son was growing up, I would do it all over again if I had to, because I love the way he is right now. And I love the fact that he knew that his mother was always on his shoulder with some reminders of, let's not do that. Think of a way of doing that there's a better way to do this. Think of where you're going to be in 5 years if you do that. And I'm happy that he took me on his shoulder.
Oh, well, you raised him to be a wonderful man. The thing about him is Tiffany was very private with whoever she was dating. And there was somebody she dated one time. I didn't meet him until a year later. But Fredrick, I knew he was the one. This was a week, 2 weeks maybe. She said, let's go have dinner. I want you to meet him. I was like, who is this dude? So it's really a blessing. The happiest I ever saw her face was at the wedding. She just beamed walking down the aisle. She just beamed, and for me, that's enough. You know, I always wanted to see her happy. I know right now they're both tired. They're doing so much so they can get more. I should have started when I was in my 50s.
And look who provided that opportunity to walk down that beautiful aisle and all the things that happened on that wonderful day.
Absolutely. It definitely wouldn't have looked anywhere near what it did. And I wonder if my father has any closing thoughts.
No, I stand by what your mother said.
All right. Well, I thank you for putting up with all of our production issues, trying to get the set together, and again, I want to appreciate my sister Elon for getting you set up out there in Maryland. Yes, I just appreciate this time, and I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah. I had one more thing I wanted to say too. I appreciate what you and Tiffany are doing right now in allowing your parents to come and speak about what it was like with you growing up. And this has been a lot of work today to put all of this together. And we want to thank you and let you all know how much we love you for doing this, taking this time to do this.
Love you too, Mama. Thank you. Yeah. So for this 55th episode of Love, Growth, and Narratives, I'm Fredrick.
And I'm Tiffany.
Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.